Like the first 2 years have just been rocky. They've been like up and down.
Paintball almost broke us, even though we both saw a benefit of it.
If you're going to an event with your partner, watch this podcast together because this is going to help make your experience as a couple and as a family a stronger experience.
Photographer of the Year, let's hear it for Dan Shelley, Shelda Photos.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Shelda Podcast, where today I am joined by, it's arguably my favorite person in paintball, my wife, Amanda. How are you today?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for asking. Thank you for being on the show. Before we jump into it, let's just address the elephant in the room, why you and I are not in the same room. So when we were thinking about doing this podcast, I was thinking, man, I don't have like a second camera set up down here and like just the space in my office. Like it would just be kind of awkward and like we would just be staring at each other the whole entire time, like not the camera. So we're like, let's just do it in separate rooms.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's also the second time we filmed this too. So I think it was a little bit easier the first time, but now we're just upstairs, downstairs.
Yeah, so for those that haven't seen like one of the previous episodes, we tried to film this a few weeks ago when you were on a business trip in a hotel somewhere, and the audio didn't come out very well, and it was a great episode, and so it was a good test run to get the nerves off for you, and you're going to crush it on this one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Take two.
Well, take two, exactly. Before we really dive into some of the questions here, I have two huge shout outs to give. Of course, the two show sponsors that have been on since day one. BFP Gear, we're fresh back from the cold, rainy Atlantic City NXL event. And it's just always so good to see Junior there at the event. You got to spend some time with him, sitting next to him at the VIP booth. And it's so cool. Like they are now pushing out I think it's called the infamous Foundation Pro DNA collaboration with their new modular waterproof backpack. It's something I've been looking at for a potential travel companion for being on the plane. And as we know, the event was rainy and a bunch of my media folks lost a lot of gear due to poor rain equipment. And this backpack that they are now selling on bfpgear.com, it's completely waterproof. So a complete game changer. So if you're looking for anything waterproof for your gear, this backpack is the way to go. So bfpgear.com is the way. And then my second show sponsor, Hormesis, been on with me since day one. And kind of a funny story there. Same thing in Atlantic City. I was talking with Kyle Berry, one of the Dynasty players, and somehow like the Dynasty children's book came up, the one that I wrote, the Dragon's Journey to Dynasty. And he was like, "You wrote that? I had no idea." And we were talking about like the whole premise behind it, like the headband, that is in the book and whatnot. And I was like, hold on a second, I've got a headband for you. So it's kind of cool. Kyle was so excited to take the headband back for his daughter, and then also get the book. So I can't wait to hear, when we see Kyle again, of what his daughter thinks about the book and the whole connection now that he's on the team. So it's so cool that Hormesis was partnered with that project.
I love that. That's
Yeah. So why are you here? When you and I were thinking about having you on the show, it just sparked like so many conversations between you and I of, man, you go to all the NXL events with me. You go to a lot of the USXBL events and have in the past with me. And the experience for me on the media side, or even a paintball player, is so different from what their spouse goes through when they travel either interstate or around the country, or even in the world for that matter, to these paintball events. I think you and I both thought it would be a really cool perspective to get a paintball spouse on to talk about what it's like, what that experience is like, what the good is, what the bad is, the bad and the ugly. And so I think what we're going to do is we've got some questions that we're going to go back and forth on. And I thought it'd be really cool if you answer the questions from your take, from the spouse's perspective, and then I answer it from like what I think from like being involved in the day-to-day scene is.
I like it. Let's go. Let's do it.
I love it. Well, let's kick off. For those of you that don't know, this podcast really started because of you. I think I've mentioned it on a few different podcasts before. So thank you for your inspiration. We wouldn't be here without you. Can you talk to us about kind of how the whole thing started with? You used to run the really popular paintball account Why I Paintball, which now transitioned over to the Shelda podcast. But can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a long-winded answer, and it's interesting. I thought about this one, and the answer I had 2 weeks ago is entirely different than the one that I have now. And you haven't heard this, so this might be something we edit out. But paintball's such a unique sport. I think, when you go through as a significant other, you fall in love with someone and suddenly they introduce you to, by the way, this other love of my life is paintball. And you're like, oh, cool, a sport, great, football, hockey, soccer, awesome. And then you go to paintball and you're like, this isn't another sport. This seems really violent. It's muddy. It's a little smelly. Like this is not what I expected. But for you and I, seeing how much you love this sport and seeing kind of what you were getting from it, I decided, all right, I'm going to kind of get immersed in your world. And so as I started to go to paintball, something really interesting happened. I saw a lot of me in people, which was really fascinating. And I don't think I've actually told you this before.
No.
So the surprise look is genuine. So I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and it never clicked with me that I think when you go through a lot of life and you've had a lot of disappointment, betrayal, trauma, just all these personalities and masks and things kind of people throw at you, and you kind of put on yourself and try to create this identity. At times you're just in conflict, right? Like you've got this identity and then who you're trying to be, and there's a lot of conflict. And I think when you go into sports, that's where people kind of get out some of that aggression. Like they feel more naturally them. And what I found was interesting with paintball is like it finally clicked with me the other day. I saw people mask up like you do in sports.
Like figuratively or literally?
Literally, they would mask up. You go out. There's a lot of adrenaline. They'd come off the field. A couple things would happen. You have the people that like you get defeated, you get excited, that adrenaline continues. There's anger. But it was the moments after that nobody really pays attention to that I was obsessed with. People would take off the mask, they'd go in a corner, and you just see glimpses of them, like real them, the pain, the emotion, everything they're going through. You just got a glimpse of it. And it was so fascinating because the thing that I noticed at our local field is connection. So people would start to identify loneliness, addiction, pain, just anything that's going on in their life. It was this unspoken connection, kind of like I see you. And it was so fascinating to see that in a sport. I've never seen anything like it before. And there was just such a vulnerability in this mostly, anything I was there, in this male-dominated sport, there was so much vulnerability. And I saw myself in that. That's kind of who I show up as all the time is I just want to be me. I want to be vulnerable. I want to let it out. And here you had a sport that men were showing up doing that and supporting one another. But it wasn't all of the time that was happening. There were rare moments. And it was cool to see you because I saw your vulnerability show up because you found those pocket of people. But when I went to NXL, I would just kind of look around and, as a spouse in NXL, you can kind of disappear. You're a little invisible. We'll go into that later, I'm sure. But I saw just all the emotion, and I wanted to create something where I was bringing these vulnerable moments out to more people. And I wanted to do it in a way that was really simple. And I thought, what's going to spark a conversation really quickly with just one word? What's a question that could get one word? So it's, why do you paintball? I paintball for. And from that, created this entire community of vulnerability. And it surpassed anything that I had ever thought would come of it. I had people sharing their deepest vulnerabilities. And then you'd get comments and direct messages of, I feel that too. Addiction, all of the things that people talk about in the corners of paintball was finally coming to light. And it was an absolutely beautiful movement. It was really cool to see people connect with it. And yeah, so that's a little bit of the history of why I paintball and why I started it and how that's finally gotten you in this seat where people can kind of get into the other seat and kind of share those little vulnerabilities and kind of encourage others to do the same, which I think is just absolutely beautiful about this sport.
Yeah. And I think there's so many takeaways there, but I think one of the things that stands out is, I would go to my local field, like here, Outlaw Paintball in Austin, Texas, and I'd see people every single week, right? And we'd have conversations about gear, teams, events, obviously everything paintball related. Sometimes it would like sprinkle outside of paintball, but like never really deep. And then people would be messaging you on that account, like sharing their why, and then you would post it, and I'd be like, holy shit, like I thought I knew this person, and like they're going through all this stuff. And so it's so crazy that we interact with these people all the time. We think we're teammates, players, whatever we are on the field and off the field, but we just don't ever know what someone's going through.
No.
And the platform that you created, it just gave such a safe space for players of all caliber, divisionals, all the way up to literally the legends in paintball to share that. And it just created such a connection point for the community. And so, yeah, thank you so much for doing that. And I think a lot of people thought I was running the account, and I literally had nothing to do with it. And that was kind of the beauty of it too, is they thought they were interacting with me when really it wasn't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's entirely what happened. It was a faceless account. It wasn't until my last post that I actually identified it was me. And I think the reason behind that, we had a few reasons. I had a few reasons I wanted to remain a faceless account. But one of the biggest objectives was, if you don't have a face behind it, people were more vulnerable. The anonymous whys, before I dropped the account, they were deep. And it was kind of just that safe space for people to be able to, you don't know the person on the other side, but they're there. They're going to talk to you. Yeah. And I think that's where, you see things like Paintball for Purpose is going to be a really great supplement to something like that. And like I said, everything you're doing here will just continue, this vulnerability that you just don't see in other places. And it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and I definitely want to dive into that a little bit more. Before we get into that, just to continue on the why paintball, like your vision of it was at some point to get it into like a video format, right? Where like you are interviewing players at the field or somehow spotlighting people on a video side of it. And I think circling back to one of your whys, like why you started the account, was because you were going to these events, and I'm assuming you just didn't feel a purpose, or you felt like out of place, and this was something to like help with that. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely hard. It's hard, man. How do I put this? Be careful with my words right now. I'll speak directly from, like, paintball is a mostly masculine sport, right? Most of the players are divisionals. WNXL, there are incredible women. I look up to them. I admire them. I love it. I think they're breaking into it. They're still kind of the outlier of this piece, which I hope in the future that's more, but we won't go into that. So we'll talk specifically from, what a feminine perspective of a partner is. And honestly, it's hard. It's so hard. And I want to talk about that because I want to validate that for spouses. One of the things I experienced personally within paintball is no one knew I was the face of this, right? And so I'm doing all of these things to try to build the community. And within that same year, I'm trying to build the community. Somebody pulled you to the side and said, you shouldn't be with this person. So the contrast of people in paintball, you've got beautiful people, and you've got people that are damaged, and that's okay. I'm damaged too. You're damaged. We're all damaged, right? Yeah. That's fine. It's how we take out that emotion that makes the difference. And you have some people in paintball that are just like when I see them, I'm filled with joy, right? At NXL events. And then you have other people that create the feelings that like I'll validate for every partner out there. When I walk into an event and I hear someone say, I had to give my wife an ultimatum, it's either paintball or you. that's devastating. I know that might be your truth, but that is devastating to hear. And I genuinely don't think that person meant it as an ultimatum, but when they're around their guys and like, you know, they're trying to show how important this is to them, being a female and being around that, that's like your worst fears kind of coming true. You know, the time commitments, what paintball means to so many men, it's so important. I mean, it is like a form of therapy. Trying to find the balance with that, it feels like constant fights all of the time. And so I want to validate that as a partner. It's okay to feel that you're not alone. I think, you know, this is the concept of this podcast, right? It was like how paintball almost broke my marriage, but then also saved it. And at many times, paintball almost broke us, even though we both saw a benefit of it. The conflict between time and the people, some of the people that weren't our people, almost broke us on multiple occasions. And I want to say that because it's not talked about. And I've met other women who have gone through same situations I have where, you know, a significant other and like a man and a woman are fighting and their friends are like, get rid of this person. And this other, like this woman is hurting so much. And in those moments, that's where this community can be so great to say like, hey, I went through that too. You know what? My spouse and I have fights about this all the time as well. You don't have to get rid of that person. There's other ways through it. So I want to validate that because I know of several other women that's been their reality as well. And it hurts. It's painful.
Yeah, these weekends can be, you know, like I said, I'll give my flip side, or not flip side, like my perspective on that. These weekends for me as a media person, or I'm assuming a player too, can just be it can feel like a rock star life, right? Like you're going from your normal 9-to-5 job and then you're going to this random city that's amazing throughout the country. You're playing paintball on the biggest scale, and like that makes you feel like you were just on a whole nother level. And I think when you do that, you just become so tunnel vision that you just kind of forget everything else. And if you are traveling with family or a spouse or a partner, it's so hard to juggle, you know, I'm here for this, but then I also am here with my family or partner too. And it just creates like such an interesting dynamic. And, you know, at Atlantic City, I was standing in a group of it was all guys, you know, there was about 5 or 6 of us. And we were just catching up like what we do at all the events. And somebody said something, he kept looking down at his phone and like, I could just see there was like just distress on this person's face. And I was like, hey, are you okay? And I asked him in front of everybody. He's like, yeah, you know, just stupid girlfriend bullshit. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, oh, you know, girlfriend's jealous that I'm here. And so I'm checking in all the time. And I think historically that conversation for some pockets of people would have been like, oh yeah, me too. And like, you know, mine's doing this. And so I tried to like take what you are doing and switch that and be like, hey, you know what? I understand what that feels like. This can be really challenging. You know, you're here, you're seeing your childhood heroes. Maybe you've been dreaming about this trip for months. Maybe it's your one trip of the year. But if your spouse or your partner's not with you, like they feel so lonely and isolated. And so like we had a beautiful conversation about what it's like for the person at home on how can we handle that better? Like how can we as paintball people show up better for our spouses or partners in that matter? Yeah, it's a very difficult situation. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, I absolutely love that. And I think you've always been a little bit ahead in leading these things. Like, again, that's why the podcast is such a great fit for you. You've shown up to be different time and time again. And I know this is hard to receive, but no, you have a lot. And we fought through a lot of it, but some people will continue fighting. And something that I think is so incredible about you is not only did you look at it objectively, but you made a different choice. And now you're trying to impact that with other people, because I think one of the things you see is that there's two sides to this, right? And as the person that sits at home, there's so many things that go through your head. Like, it's trying to be supportive. And so I'm so proud of you. I literally, like, as soon as I see the intro, I get the biggest grin on my face. Like, I am so proud of you time and time again. And other feelings exist with it too, right? Like, you know, exactly what I described, where you could be really close and then you go away for a weekend and you're in a different environment, you come back a different person. All of a sudden, that loving connection we had, and then you go and you have people not respond supportive, but say, yeah, you shouldn't be with this person, or you're like, yeah, that's toxic. You carry that home. And so where a partner shows up, I'm supportive, I love you, go do it, and you come home and you kind of subconsciously annihilate, all of those fears throughout the weekend have just come true.
Mm.
And so I think that's the opportunity. Both people can show up differently there, right? But it happens so fast. How do you realize it? I don't think we realized that for 2 years, right? Like,
no,
we're still learning.
Yeah. And like, you know, we're, 2-3 years. I mean, I think it's 3
We're
years.
in year 3, I think.
Year 3 of traveling to all the NXL events. And, you know, like the first 2 years have just been rocky. They've been like up and down. And like, we've had some crazy fights at these events, at the field, you know, at the hotels and Airbnbs. And I think, was it Tampa? I think it was Tampa, this first event this year, where like something like really unlocked, and you had said something to me. You're like, and however you said it, but you're like, you are a totally different person here. And for some reason, like that just hit me. I was like, wait, you're right. Because, you know, I go my Monday through Friday, right? Like I'm just another coworker like everybody else. But then I go to these events on the weekends and I'm walking around and people are wearing my brand. My logo's on t-shirts, it's on stickers. People are stopping me and asking for selfies and autographs. And like, it literally feels like I'm living a small rock star celebrity life all day. You know, people are coming up and giving me kudos on the podcast, and just, it's incredible. I wouldn't change that for the world. But I think what we realized is once that day is done, like I'm on a high all day, and I get back to the hotel or Airbnb, and it's just like I come crashing down. Yeah. And all of that pent up energy is like now coming out at you. And I'm just like, I don't think I knew how to handle that. And so it's just, I don't know if I was like spewing things out, or if I was just excited, or if I was short, maybe I was exhausted, whatever it was. I just wasn't handling that situation correctly for the past 2 years. And you said something beautiful. You're like, once we've realized that, and that like, you know, I would see people all day and be like, hey, how are you? And like super excited. But then when I would see you, it would just be a completely different tone. I'd like, hey, like, it's good to see you. Like, how's the day going? Give you a hug. And I think for a while you were thinking like, wait, why are you so excited to see everybody else? But then when you see me, it's just like, feels like you're down. Mm-hmm. And I think what we realized is when I see you, it's comfort.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be this like, I guess a persona maybe. Yeah. And so like, once we had that conversation and like really understood that, like it just unlocked something completely different for both you and I. And Atlantic City it was incredible, because now that we knew that I go through that on the weekends, like you were able to show up for me in a different way. I was able to then realize like, okay, I'm going to go through this process. How can I make sure I'm showing up correctly? And it was just such a beautiful weekend, but it took us 2.5 years, almost 3 years to get to that point. There's a lot of struggle to get there.
But and thanks for sharing that, because I think I never thought we'd kind of be like a really good example. But when I kind of look at like our retrospective here of like lessons learned for us, you know, I think I won't speak for you from my perspective. So like we'll really preference that as my perspective. I think you and I have been, from my perspective, this loop of I bring up something that annoys you about life, and you bring up all these things that annoy me about life. So when you're out living this rock star life, and it's just reminding me of all the things I failed at. And I had to do that inner work. I had to say, why every weekend am I feeling these things? And it was just trauma coming up, right? And so I had to look at that and have a different space with that. And at the same time, I think that that relationship happened with you where there were a lot of patterns that we had in our relationship, or a lot of patterns you'd expressed from your past that would come up that you had to work through. And I think that post Tampa this year, I think that's where I finally got to the part of, okay, what I'm feeling is a reflection of me, right? Like this isn't intentional. And the other part is, it is actually an honor that I get to see a different side of you that no one else does. And so I say that because of all the things we've learned. And if looking at like what I would have said to not World Cup, it was Orlando first year, right? We were at this. What I would have said to Amanda at that point is, it's an honor. You are a persona, and that's okay. It's good. You're good. You have a mask that is helping people, and that's incredible. And it's genuine, right? Like this isn't a disguise. It is a mask, and that's built on adrenaline. And when you come home to me, you take that off, right? And that's such an honor. And I think if we can kind of look at that from a spousal perspective, it helps. It helps a little bit because there's so much adrenaline all day, particularly with people actually playing. I've seen it with spouts over and over, especially in divisionals. You put so much pressure into it. If you don't win, there's anger. You go to team meetings that night, there's still anger. You go into the next day, and if you lose that day, then like the whole weekend's like that. And so those quiet moments you get alone in the hotel room, just the two of you, if your partner's devastated, if they're, tense, it's not you. Give them the space. It's an honor that they're there with you.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point because so many people, and Tammy talked about this on her episode last week, is, we go to these events and it's like a bell curve, right? Like we go to these events on Saturday and Sunday. It's like you could be at the highest of high. Maybe it's the lowest of low. Like maybe you went 0-4, you got destroyed. But then that also seeps into your home life, right? Like maybe you maxed out a credit card to get to this event, putting all your eggs in, I'm going to win this, but then you don't. And then you have to come home and explain that to your family, or like, yeah, this is what it was. And then you're justifying it. So like, there's just so many emotions that not only the player has to go through, but the supporting cast also has to be equipped and ready to support that person go through that too. What advice would you give to family members or spouses or partners that are traveling to these events and are witnessing, their player go through these? Like, how can they show up to be a good supportive partner in that?
That's probably one of the hardest questions to ask today. Long-winded. Sorry, there's a story. I think natural part of love for most of us is a protector piece, right? Like, I think that's pretty natural. I think it's part of like traditional wedding vows is like to cherish, protect, right? Try as hard as you can to reframe that on what you can't control as a partner, because instinctively, I still go through this with you. I'm like in protector mode all of the time. And I'm in protector mode for paintball too, but if you can kind of think about what can I control in this weekend? If I'm going into this and I'm saying I'm here for my significant other, commit to that. You wear that mask. Commit to I'm going to be here for my partner, and give yourself parameters of how long can I withstand this?
Yeah.
I think I had to do that because when I was at paintball events from like sun up to sunrise, watching media, not paintball, like there's a Dan sighting, and no one really talked to me. I lost my identity over and over again, and it ate away at me.
Totally.
And so I think like try to identify your max and then have an escape plan almost of, okay, I'm going to step out. I'm going to either like take a breath or do something for me, whatever you can do there. And then commit to, if I'm going to be here for my partner, I'm going to commit to holding space for them and try to find joy in that. Like with you, when I see people, hey, I love your husband's podcast. Yeah, me too. That's great. Like I get to celebrate those moments where before it was just, I was invisible. So have those clear lanes of how you're going to show up. And sometimes too at events where my trauma starts to build.
Sure. I
know now, okay, I'm going to duck out, or maybe I won't go to all 4 days of the event. Maybe I'll only go to 2 days. go into it with priorities and having kind of that escape plan as a partner.
Gosh, there's so many things I want to dive into there.
Let's do it. Let's dive into all of them.
Of course. Before I do that, though, like I want to give my thoughts on that too. If we think back to the very first event that you and I went to together, it was my first of paintball event literally in, I think, 20 years. The last one I went to was Tampa back in whatever it was, 2007 or 8, I think. But the first event was back at the Sunshine State Major in Florida, my first time with a camera, and your first time at a paintball event, our first time at a paintball event together. And I showed up and I wasn't fully prepared to go through that event, not only just me alone, but like having a partner there. Cause I showed up, I was all excited. I was in like my tunnel vision, like I'm going to go shoot my heroes. I'm going to the field. And then I vividly remember like, all right, I'll see you later. And like, I just walked off and you're like, well, shit, where do I go? And that was, like, I think NXL does a great job of having that center 50 bar area where they have like tables and stuff. And so luckily you found a spot to hang out there. But I think what I'm trying to get at is for this side of it, if you're the paintball player or if you're media or you're somebody bringing your partner to an event for the first time, try to have some type of plan for that person. NXL does a great job of releasing the map a few days before. So try to find some spots where maybe you have meetups. Maybe you have a spot where your partner can go hang out. Make sure there's shade. Make sure there's a spot from the elements. Thinking through some of those logistics, I think will help on a small scale, make it a safer space for your partner. So I think I wish I would have known that going into those events a lot sooner, is thinking about what you and I could go through. And then, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I just have a really quick follow-up to that because that's so key there. And I've heard that from both parties. I've heard that from the player and the spouse. And what's interesting is what you just said there is beautiful. Have something for the partner, have something for your spouse. And I've heard from so many players, actually, I don't know what to do. I feel bad if they're here. So there's actually something really fascinating there where I think the key to what worked for us was vulnerability. And both of us having a space to be like, hey, can we just be honest? And like you saying, I feel bad that you're here. And me saying, I hate all day events. And like having those parameters of, but that doesn't mean anything. It's not a definitive, so you hate being here. Like we don't have to solve for that. I think as soon as both people kind of come to the table with those vulnerabilities, then you can discover, I'm going to go to Disney today. Have a great time. I'll bring you a Rice Krispie treat. Like, and I won't feel bad about it. And you don't feel like everybody feels secure in that environment. But that very first event, you were like, go do something. And I felt paralyzed. Like I couldn't, I needed to be there. And had we just been vulnerable about those two aspects, I think that can actually help a lot of people that are having the same conversation in their head right now.
Yeah. Thanks for tying that off. Cause that ties back to a conversation I had with somebody, in my Discord, one of the Shelda Squad members. Huge shout out to those guys. But he was at Atlantic City, and when we were in that little circle talking about our spouses and talking about what we all go through, he was like, my wife wants to come to these events, but I'm so afraid to bring her because it's going to be a lonely experience. And then we start to talk about when I think a lot of people go through this is when your partner's at an event with you. I think it happens both ways, and maybe you can confirm this. Is I'm thinking like, shoot, are you okay? Like, what are you doing? Do you need anything? I've been gone for 2 hours. Are you worried about what I'm doing? Maybe you can't see me. Maybe I went off to a different part of the field. Is there worry that I'm talking to somebody? And I've heard other players say that they're worried about bringing their partner to these events because they feel like they have to do that dance the whole entire weekend of like checking in and, hey, I'm okay. Are you okay? And it creates like it gets you out of the reason why you're there. I see you smiling.
So heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking. And I see it. Like, it's one of those, I'm smiling because it's like, man, we lived this so much. And had I known, it's like, it's so simple. It's right there. But We had to live it so we can share it, right? You know? But,
Yeah, totally. That's why we're here. So like we can share
yeah.
what you and I have gone through to help others not go through that.
Yeah, it is like honestly, and unless I would consider myself super lucky to have people I can talk to at NXL. Steve, like I light up every time I see him. Patch when he's there, like even the guys at Dynasty, it's great to like talk to Alex about Disney. I don't want to talk about paintball. I want to know the last time you were at Disney and please share photos. Like, I mean, I have people that I can talk to, which is fantastic. That took a while. And even now, I'm still super lonely most of the time. But when you're worrying about me, you've just rejected me being there. Like, that's what it feels like. You've, in essence, me being there and getting to light up, you kind of taken that away. So it's counterintuitive. Your fear, your worry has been taken away. Me being there, me trying to support. So it's fascinating. Like, I think there's that other way to think about it of have that conversation, own it. It is going to be lonely, but if you know, okay, well, this will be lonely. Here's some escape plans. Put that to bed then. Like, you don't have to worry about it. You no longer, I'm not a worry or concern. And then you get to receive love. And then I get to receive that space to be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for opening up and saying that. Cause I think, that's going to help some people. You know, somebody's going to listen to this episode and be like, wow, I just went through that with my partner. We just got back and had a huge fight or something like that is going to come from this, from you opening up. So I truly can't thank you enough for that. And, you know, as you were saying that, I think something else that could help while you're at the event, pick different points throughout the day to check in with each other. You know, like, hey, you know, I've got a break around this time. Like, let's go grab coffee if there's a coffee stand there. Let's go grab hopefully an acai bowl if they have the acai bowl truck there, right? But like having those times where you can look forward to like seeing each other, I think really helps build that connection throughout the day. I think that's a little. So I think what you and I are saying, we're like 2 steps ahead, right? Because like you've been through this. You've probably been to 10 events, I think. So you have a really small pocket of people, but for somebody, and I think this is going to resonate with all the divisional people who are going to these events for the first time, maybe they're bringing their whole entire family, or it's just one person. What advice would you give to that couple where they're going to an event for the very first time and that partner is going to be alone 90% of that weekend and they don't know anybody there?
That is such a good question. First of all, find my Instagram and connect me because I don't sit still well. So let me help because I always want to. Second of all is just anticipate being lonely. From a spouse perspective, anticipate being lonely and try to get ready for that. So try to identify if I'm lonely, what can I do to fill my time? If I want to come, like, what is my intention being here? And then, great, that's good to focus on and anticipate. I'm not the main character this weekend. I'm the supportive partner. So what can I do to make sure like my mask is on, right? Like the airplane metaphor. What can I do to make sure my mask is on to do that? And I think as soon as you kind of get more comfortable with being alone, then you can identify, oh, if I hate being alone, I know I need more people. Cool, I will bring more family. I hate being alone, but I do love being on my phone. Great, I'm going to make sure I have that movie downloaded or that series downloaded. Try to identify that outside of the event. So when you go in, think of it like if anybody has kids and you have a baby, you're packing stuff, like they're going to need this toy, they're going to need this bottle. Like just try to think about that in the sense of you, so that you can maintain the intention of why you're going into that weekend.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I see, again, I'm giving my side of it. I see both perspectives or I see both versions of that when I walk around events. Like I can almost tell who's been to these events before and who hasn't, because you'll see the partner kind of like pull back a little bit. They stand kind of to themselves and they're on their phone, or like you can tell that they just feel out of place.
Yeah.
And then you could tell like what I'll call the pro person, the pro traveler, right? Like they're immersed in the pits, they're cleaning pods, they're somehow involved, or they've got their son or daughter there, they've got the iPad, they've got headphones on. And as you were explaining that, I almost think of this as like it's traveling, right? Like if I go to an airport, there's just the things that people typically bring, whether it's an iPad to watch movies, they bring a book. And I think you've done a good job of that. Like you'll hang out somewhere with your iPad and you'll throw headphones on and like you'll either be creating or watching TV, or you'll set up FaceTime with the kids. And so I think full circle, it's so important to make sure you as the partner is you're bringing things for you to help keep yourself occupied for 10 or 12 hours. Because they can be long days. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think somebody local said it a few weeks. Well, it was after Tampa. They were like, it just looked like you were living your best life. And I think it was that event that I was like, every day I'm just going to find a moment of joy that's just for me. It's not like anything else. And if you can, I'm going to say this. This is in no way associated with Dan Shelley. This is an Amanda statement only. I still don't understand the game of paintball. When I watch paintball, I look for you, and I see the other media people, and I'm like, oh, that's a Dan move. Like I have a hard time. I have a team that I'm like emotionally connected with, that I'm rooting for. But beyond that, you're the reason I'm there. Yeah. So for me to find my place in paintball is really hard. It was why I paintball. As soon as like that went away, it's really hard. So I've had to find, I have a paintball wardrobe now that's predominantly Hormesis, like just find these pieces that bring you joy of paintball, joy, not like conditional on your partner, but like these things that bring you joy. Like I've got my it's not a checklist, but like almost like I win at life bingo card of people I get to see at paintball events. Like those are moments of joy. Try to build some things out when you're there that are not attached to your partner and just for you. Yeah. And I think that'll help. And bring rain boots. Like, please bring rain boots.
For the love of everything, bring rain gear, bring rain jackets. Yes. So thank you for explaining that. And the flip side of that is, if I'm thinking about my partner being there, that could be an opportunity to, like throughout these events, like obviously all of us in the paintball community, like we're thinking about paintball 24/7. We're talking about it 24/7 with our guys, and on the weekends, it's all we're doing, right? I think there's a cool opportunity for, if you're at events, that could be like an opportunity for the partners to like maybe walk around to the different vendors and like, okay, what would my partner, like maybe a Christmas present, maybe a birthday present, and like you can start to kind of get into their world a little bit. Because I've seen a few like paintball wives over the past few years where like we'll reach out to people like, hey, like this player's on this team, like what do you recommend I should get? And that's a cool way to like go see that stuff in person. And then the other probably pro tip is, if you're a paintball partner out there, bring like, I think some people call it a to-go bag or like an EDC bag. Bring like hand wipes, bring wet wipes, because like the bathroom situation usually isn't the greatest in the world. So like bring some care needs for yourself for that weekend.
I think before the next event, we just need to build out a survival guide to the weekend, best tips. Maybe try to get collaboration with the NXL on that one, like spouses guide to NXL. But I think there's something about the vendors too, like it's a really good time to walk around and just try to like experience the world, and that your significant other is so in love with. And it's cool. It's cool to kind of see that. It's like a theme park almost. Like you get to experience those things and you get to find your piece in it. Like this is not like a sponsorship. I love Hormesis. I love Kevin. I love their mission. I love their brand. I love how they make clothes. It aligns with like me outside of paintball, like me and every day. That's what I look for. So to find that within paintball was like, oh, this is me in this community. This is so cool. So, outside of like everyone's vulnerabilities and noticing that and like connecting on brokenness, Hormesis was like a really cool moment just to find me. So I think you're spot on with like, try to go through the vendors and find something that you might connect with too.
Yeah. And because a lot of these vendors, it's not just on the field paintball gear and equipment. Like a lot of these vendors are now starting to have lifestyle products.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, obviously, Hormesis is a sponsor of this, regardless if they are or not. My half of the closet is a lot of Hormesis stuff, just because I love what they're doing and I believe in that brand, and clearly, you do too. And We kind of make a fun game out of it as like, you and I will both go to Hormesis 10 at some point throughout the weekend and like, we'll like look for like, hey, what do we think the other person wants? And like we play that dance back and forth. And so there's like fun things that you could do, throughout the weekend is once you learn what your partner likes and is into as well. One thing I do want to bring up, and this is going to be like an interesting perspective for you because I'm not a player, but I think we see it a lot. Like one of my great friends, Joel, right? His wife, Ashlyn, helps out. Jordan, his wife, Elizabeth, helps out in the pits. You see a lot of partners almost get like, I don't want to say forced, but they get pushed into helping in the pits, like whether it's fill pods or clean off players. Sometimes they get suckered into running pods, which is crazy. What tips would you give to players if you want your partners helping out in the pits?
Well, first of all, let them. I think that protectiveness a lot comes into. They're there to support you, and I think that's one of those things. Talk about it beforehand. Of hey, this could potentially happen. Would you be interested in it? And then like honor that. Like, here's the worst case scenario. Someone doesn't show up. Are you good to do that? No. Okay. Well, then when we play, maybe you want to be like over there and have a contingency plan so you don't put your partner in that spot. But also too, all I want to do at events is help. I'm that annoying person everywhere I go. I'm just like, can I help? Can I help? Can I help? Yeah. And everyone's so protective of it. Like, no, that's okay. No, thank you. And that it hurts actually. I'm there to support. I'm there to be part of your world and to help. So partners, let them. It's not going to come back around to bite you. Take that fear away. If you've had a conversation about why the partner's there and they said they're there to support you, let them receive it. Because when you push it away, that's where a lot of this conflict comes from, is you're making assumptions in your head, then you're projecting it on them. And then it turns out like all of that will actually come to fruition. You've just basically downward spiraled like a manifestation of a fight. So let that space work.
Yeah, that's a beautiful explanation. And I think the flip side of that, like as you were thinking, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I go through. And I think that's exactly what a lot of players would probably go through, is like they're protective of, they don't want their partner to maybe mess something up in the pits or something happen and then they become responsible for it. Or maybe they're just in that world and they see how intimidating it is, right? Like some of these players come off the field and they're yelling, they're screaming, or like they're saying, hey, this paint sucks. Like these pods need to be filled up the wrong way. And that can be really off-putting if you're not used to that. But I think just like anything, if you do it for the first time, you kind of get over that newness. You're going to learn different techniques. You're going to learn different styles, and then you become part of it. And then you're almost winning and losing as a team, right? Like one of my favorite pictures I've taken in the past few years is when Joel and Ashlyn were in the pits for, I think it was USXBL last year. It was their first event as a team. They won, and like they got to share that experience together because she was part of it. And I think a lot of spouses would, if they're not involved in that, they would be standing on the sidelines and they're like waiting and like, hey, I'm over here. Like, yes, congratulations, but like I can't see you, And so it's just a shared experience.
Yeah, I think you're spot on.
And the interesting, like, quick story about what you went through. I think there was, maybe it was a divisional team at an Excel event last year, like one of the local teams. You offered to help and they said no, they declined your help. And then that day you ended up in the Dynasty pits helping the #1 team in the world at the time win an event. And then here you are 2 or 3 years later, like you're jumping in once in a while when they're short staffed helping out Dynasty. And so I think they said no because one, maybe there was the female aspect of it, or two, they didn't know if you knew what you were doing or how to do it. But that's discrediting you as a person, right? Like you learn so quickly on that. And I think a lot of partners, they just want to help. And it takes a few minutes to teach somebody how to clean a pod or how to fill a pod properly. And then it's just, and especially if you're traveling to these events, now you essentially have free help that you can rely on.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've touched on something you touch on like the granular, something bigger. And I think it just kind of clicks here where I saw this with you. So again, my perspective here, but I saw this with you. This is so sacred to you. It's probably one of the most important things you've ever shared in your life with me. And
I mean, it is hands down.
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
paintball.
And so to have something that is so sacred to you, you want to share it. Like, right? You want to. I see that it's sacred to you. I want to be involved in your world because I love you. I love who you are. I want to know how you think, what you feel. I want to know how you experience the world. So I'm there to learn. I'm there to be part of your world. But it's such a vulnerability from the person who it's so sacred to that I think you instinctively go to this place of, I'm going to try. It's like when you're afraid of something, right? I'm going to try to account for like every threat that's around me. And at the slightest inkling of it, there it is. This is because you're so protective of it. And I think if like, you can kind of come to the table of, this person isn't here to take this vulnerable thing away from me. They're here to support me. They're here to send me love. They're here to help me grow this vulnerable thing. I think you can actually approach a lot of this. It'll get quieter instead of getting louder.
Yeah, you are so spot on. And, as you were saying that, I think a lot of people in paintball go through that. Like this, for me, obviously, like paintball is and has been, besides like family and the traditional stuff, it's been the most important thing my whole entire life. Like it's been my outlet since I've been a kid. It's just, and now that it's been back in my life these past few years, like I can't imagine my life without it. At someday I will step on the field for the last time. I'll take a picture for the last time. And whenever that is, I can't fathom right now, like what my life will be like without it. Like that's how important it is. And when we were on the episode last week with Tammy, like I was doing research for her show, there's data now that shows that different therapists are using paintball for helping people recover for different events they're going through in their life because I think it was that lets out that dopamine
it's the adrenaline, the drop.
It helps all of that come out for people. And I think that's why so many people crave it so much on the weekends. And when people leave the sport and then they come back, they're like, I can't believe how did I miss this? Like I missed it so much. It's such a part of their identity. Yeah,
absolutely. It's vulnerability at its truest form.
Yeah.
And so I think if you recognize that, like if everyone that feels that within paintball, if you recognize that and you own it, I think you'll start to understand a little bit more of why you're reacting and showing up to significant others because you're so protective of it.
Yeah.
I think that can help kind of navigate some of those red flags when you're like, you're bored. Are you going to take this away from me? Are you not having a good time? You're going to take this away from me. I don't want you here because you're going to see something bad and take this away from me. When it's the opposite. I won't speak for everyone,
sure.
But it's generally if you're going there in a supportive spirit, it's because we see how important it is and we want you to have that and we want to help support it and grow.
Yeah.
It's not going to mean that sometimes people aren't going to be their worst selves at these events and we become a protector, but that's not an absolute. If we say then like, this was awful. This was awful for the community. This was awful for you. And I hate it for you. And I'm angry about it. That doesn't mean we've taken anything away. We're on your side. We still want you to have it.
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah, totally. And for whatever reason, like when you were explaining that, it kind of brought up this meme that I've seen before where like there's a couple in bed and they're laying together looking at opposite ways, but like one person is like wondering what the person is doing and that person's like so nervous to share it because like that's the safe space, right? Like I'm on YouTube, I'm watching my algorithm, like whatever videos are prompted to me, and the partner like it just wants to learn. They just want to get involved in your world, and that person's like, like what are you doing? Like this is my time. And so I think if there's a way to embrace that the person on the flip side of that just wants to learn more about you, that's going to open up such a deeper connection for the relationship. I think that can really help maybe even the paintball journey as a couple become stronger at that point too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more as a partner, you can kind of understand paintball from that person's perspective. And then you can find, is there a place for me? Finding that balance.
Yeah.
I think you can navigate it a lot better.
Totally. And so there's two things I want to go down different paths here. One is what you and I are talking about is going to these events together and figuring that part out. But there's also the path where some couples don't go to the events together, and that's also okay too, because I've had there's a few folks on the media team, and I think for people that aren't involved in paintball media, like, to understand what paintball media goes through on these weekends is insane. Like, we are at the field literally at 6 a.m. We don't leave the field until 6 or 7 at night. We're going back, we're editing, we're dumping footage, we're charging batteries. Like, they are 12+ hour days. And so you're running from different fields. If you're booking teams, like, it's pure chaos for 2 or 3 straight days. And for partners that are not at the field, I think understanding that will help that relationship. Because I've seen it in action where there was somebody on the media team within the last few years where they're like, yeah, my partner keeps reaching out, and like, she's got some, whatever is going on in her life, I just don't have the space to give her my undivided attention right now, and it's causing tension. And we talk through it, and I eventually heard from that person that they were able to go home, have a beautiful conversation of, hey, when I'm at these weekends, like, I don't have enough brain cells to give anything other than paintball.
Yeah. Yep.
And so to have that dynamic, that's also okay too. For couples.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Now, I do want to jump back because you touched on it earlier, and I think it's beautiful. A lot of these events, Tom said it recently on one of the podcasts that he was on, where they try to find popular cities, where there's popular airports, there's different life to experience there. You, as a partner, don't have to be at the field all day, every day, if you have financial means for it, and if you're able to do that. Talk about what that's like. Because I think when you and I got to that spot where we realized that you don't have to be at the event from sunup to sundown for 3 days supporting me, like, our relationship skyrocketed there.
Oh yeah. You're spot on. I think a lot of that is, again, let me back up just 1 second there. You're right. And let's just really solidify that in this conversation. There's no perfect plan here. These are suggestions of things we've learned, but like, what everyone wants to do, your own journey, that's okay. It's all right, because it will be unique for you. So I really want to kind of lead with that, because that's sort of what has landed for me. Is I've identified, here's moments of joy I'll be able to have throughout the weekend that kind of fuel me, so then I can show up to the field for this many hours of the day and be able to then support you. So again, kind of like having that space outside, try as far in advance as you can. I to like kind of plan around, what can I do in the area, scope it out. Even if it's not like a huge popular destination, is there a book like you'd love to read or something? Try to scope that out a little bit in advance, and then just talk to your partner about it of, hey, I'm going to do this. That's cool, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. And again, if you have the means to do it, like if you have, the time to take off of work, I think something that you and I had promised you at the start, but it didn't work out that way, is, hey, let's tack on a day and like, let's go explore the city. But it ended up being, I was so exhausted and tired that like, it just became failed promises. But I think now we're at a spot where either you're doing that on your own if I can't step away, or if you and I have a day before or after to like go explore the city or go see a hot spot. Like, it's also such a cool connection for us too. And that's such a cool memory that we get to experience together. It's kind of like a unique way to go explore the country a little bit in like small bursts.
Yeah, exactly. And that's taken time, right? Because when we started, we're just two different people, and that's totally okay. My idea of like, let's go explore the city, and you were like, no, thank you. So we had to have a lot of conversations beforehand and just reset those expectations over and over again. So, again, how to, like, looking back, something I wish I would have learned is kind of go into it with bottom expectations, right? And then kind of build up from there as well too. Yeah,
beautiful. Thanks for being vulnerable and opening up about this.
Oh my goodness, of course.
So one of the other things I wanted to ask you is, and this isn't going to be for everybody, like it's for probably the upper percentile, I guess, of players who are known in the industry, probably on like the pro level, semi-pro level. But what is it like for you as a partner going to these events? And you touched on it earlier where like you feel like you don't have an identity, but like where people are coming up to you and like, oh, are you Mrs. Shelda? Are you have to be Dan's wife? And like, what is it like? They're asking you just questions about me and that experience, and they're not learning about you. So two-part question there. What is that like for you? And like, what advice would you give to other people that have paintball wives or spouses that have well-known people in the community?
That's a tough question to answer. All right, I'll be honest with it. I'll be nothing but up front. It's that relationship with myself has just like, it's just been a roller coaster. It's, this is such a great example of you can have many emotions at once. And I think that's what happens is I got to see you be the most beautiful manifester I've ever met. I got to be the person that you sat, when we were in wine country in Texas, like, which isn't a thing, but when we sat in that Airbnb and you're like, I want to do this. And I'm like, yeah, let's get in a car and drive to Orlando. That sounds great. And I saw you were like, I'm going to be on the pro field. I'm going to be on the pro field. And you made it happen. Like that is the most magical thing, like one of the most magical things I've ever gotten to experience. And so seeing that and the book and just you keep like, it's amazing. I'm speechless. Like to see you do that, I have more joy and pride than I can articulate. And it's so hard to share that with other people, but also too, it's so hard to articulate it. And so I kind of get awkward with it when people are talking about how great you are. It's like, well, duh, yeah, I knew that. Like I met him, the first time, but glad you're on board. So there's like that little bit of protectiveness. There's also that absolute joy that other people are seeing you. And then the dark part is I feel absolutely invisible. And that's where it's such a reflection of like the self-work I still have to do. And it's taken I'll be honest, it's in the vulnerability seat, the Shelda vulnerability seat. It's taken so much time to even remotely get okay with that because it would make me really angry. It would make me really sad. It was like, it didn't matter what I did in the community. It just seemed like I didn't exist as a person. And that's where I had to redo that thought process of, I'm not here to be a person. I'm here to be supportive. So if that's what you want to be, then be that. And like all this other complex about not existing, work that out at home, not here. So it's hard. It's really hard. And I think, there are such good people in paintball. I've got, like I said, Alex talks to me as a person. We don't talk paintball. I love you. We don't talk about you. We talk about Disney, for short stints. Kevin and Hermesis, just really quick conversations, but a joy to talk to him about. Kara, like it's great to talk to her. And I do get to be a person, which makes me feel like it's amazing. It's amazing to get to be a person. So I think if I could like give any type of advice to the community, it's particularly when you've got like, I'm so excited to meet you and I've got to tell you how your husband's amazing, great. Yes, he is. Thank you. Join the fan club of number one. Like, issue one. Try to get to know the other person. And I don't mean that just from spouse perspective. I'm going to go on a tangent for a second. I mean that from a perspective of you don't know the people around you. And that's why I created Wyatt Paintball. Because you can see, if you just sit and observe, and I've had that opportunity to do that because I've been nearly invincible at most of these events. If you sit and watch, you'll see the pain that people carry. And it is heartbreaking because all these people need is a hug. They just need, I'm like you, I see you. But we get so caught up with these personas that we think we need to be. And I see it. I see people show up as like this pro player. I've got to get in this headspace. I've got to get in this adrenaline. You forget about why people are there, which is connection and community. The thing that's saving you, you're forgetting. And there are so many people with addiction, with depression, who probably wanted to commit suicide that week that you're not even addressing because you're so focused on something else. And that's part of where this community can do it really well, or they can not do it at all. And so that's something where I know it's there. And that's what's so beautiful about this community. And I just hope not just for players, but you do it for wives too. You do it for significant others. You do it for WNXL. Get to know other people. Ask them something not related to paintball. Ask them about the person they are. Get to know them. You will find the coolest people with the coolest stories. It'll be so validating, and everybody will win for that situation.
Yeah, thank you for opening up, because I think what you're explaining, whether people want to admit or not, I think that's what majority of people go through. They just feel invisible on those weekends if they're not the player, if they're the family or the spouse. And it's really hard if you don't have a pocket of people. There's kind of like the forced, like if you're a paintball wife or a girlfriend of a player on a team, and other players on that team are traveling with partners, like there's that forcedness where like, hey, we're all here. So like you're a paintball mom, like I guess we're going to kind of mingle, right? But like if you don't have that, that's where it can feel really lonely. And so I think what you're explaining is so spot on. And the flip side to that, what I've observed, like obviously it's my job as a media is to like observe and capture moments, is I see players come up to, the Ryan Greenspans and like the heroes of the game, and they're just starstruck. And there's been so many times where they're walking with their family and like they just don't even acknowledge their family. And there was a player, and I won't name him, but he was on Dynasty a few years ago, and I think he was new that year, and like maybe it was he brought his family to like World Cup. And I saw them walking together. It was after the event. I saw them walking together. The player walked off, probably to get them drinks and come back. And so I walked up to the partner and I was like, hey, what is this like for you? Like, what is it like seeing your partner essentially be a celebrity? And she was like, it's so overwhelming. She was like, I don't know what to do. And so I think what you and I have learned is when we see like paintball partners or like see paintball wives or even husbands, if it's WNXL players, go up to them and like just talk to them nothing about paintball. Like, hey, you're here with your partner. Like, what do you do? Like, what's your 9 to 5? And you'll see them being like, it's almost like they're just like, they're woken up and like, wait, you're asking that? Like, you want to know about me? It's so powerful. I think just talking to the family members of players that are there, and not talking about the player.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really powerful. And I think you do a really great job of it. I've seen you do it, which is amazing. Some people have done really well with myself too. I always try to connect, like Laura, is absolutely amazing. I'm obsessed with her far. Like, I mean, these people that are coming here are some of the best people. I'll go on like a little bit of a tangent here for just a second. You can edit this out. That's totally okay. But the thing that attracted me to paintball, because I'm not a sports person, this, like we've had with football.
So super quick. Amanda said she's not a sports person. If she has a ball in her hand and she's looking right and throws it right, the ball will end up left. And like
almost broke the TV so many times.
Yeah, sorry, continue.
Yes, no, I am not a sports person, despite the sports I've attempted. I'm not a sports person. I'm a people person. Yeah. I'm obsessed with people. I love people. I just want to help people. I see it, right? And paintball was so unique in that aspect, because you have people that this is the most vulnerable thing to them. And because it's the most vulnerable thing to them, they're showing up vulnerable. And there's a precipice. Like, it's a point right now with paintball where you have sparks of people that are creating a movement of show up, be you, let me get to know you. This is something that psychologically will help you. This is something emotionally that will help you. This is something where you get to show up and tear off all the masks that you've had to put on. You get to be a person. Your significant other gets to be a person. There are people leading that. And those are the people that are building the sport. And at the same time, and I will tell you this, not from your opinion, this is just me as a spouse, when I see this community that I spend so much time observing and trying to give a platform to before, or trying to get people to do good. When I see this platform attack itself over, like, we won't go into it, but everything over the past week, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. It's not what this community is. This community is love. It's vulnerability. I am perplexed. I'm like, I literally was laying awake last night. Like, I don't understand what's happening. These really great people that are coming here to be friends, to save lives, attacking a community based off of one individual, one person. And the hate and the pain as a paintball spouse. And I think about this from pro wives all the time, not like, because I think there's some association there. I can kind of get a sense of what that's like. When the person I love goes somewhere, puts their heart into it, it's the most vulnerable thing. It's healing. When you see that, if someone attacks you, we're not okay.
Yeah.
Like that, not you and I, but that other person and I, we're not okay. Great. That's life. It happens. When that's happening over and over again, you as a partner are just trying to understand, why is this person showing up with this? I think about it all the time with pros. I get nauseous over pro games where you have fathers, people with careers, their families are there with their kids, go dad. And you have people in the stands just saying the worst things, like go die. This is not what this community is. I understand it's a sports mentality, but no one is following you around, fan, saying go die. Do you know how much that hurts? Yeah. So I say that because it needs to be said, because as a partner, when you go here and you want to be supportive and you see all of the good, and you, like I did, you fall in love with it. You fall in love with the people. You fall in love with the vulnerability. And then you see this hate that doesn't have anywhere else to go. So it's here attacking the person you love. It ruins the sport.
Totally.
It ruins the sport in general. It causes fights, because as a partner, I'm not going to understand anymore. Why are you doing this thing that seems so toxic?
Yeah.
You have to defend it. And it's because of these people that there's other ways to do hate. Go out on a field, get a paintball gun, get on a field. There's a psychological study that was talked about on the podcast last week. Go do that.
Yeah,
there are other ways to do it. So that's something I just wanted to bring up, because it's kind of the elephant in the room, particularly from a partner perspective, where you're going, you're supportive, and then you see somebody attacking this really beautiful thing and the thing that's important to your person. It's so hard to stand by and still be supportive and not be like, can we find a different way? Can we find something else? So just know you're not alone if you're that protector and you're feeling that you're not alone. That's a completely normal thing. But there are so many good people in this sport, though, that I know will ultimately rise above all of this. But it's okay to acknowledge the elephant in the room right now, that this moment sucks because of all the hate that's going around.
Yeah, for sure. It's for like such a small community as paintball, it's really a small community compared to a lot of the other sports out there, and all the other, like if you put paintball next to like the gaming community, it's nothing, right?
Yeah.
And so anytime you have something that comes in and like hurts it, it could destroy something like that. When COVID happened, like paintball stopped. A lot of good things came from it, like podcasts came from it, and other ways to communicate and build communities came from that. But for a while, people were like, what do we do? Like, I think events stop. I've heard of leagues that just completely folded. And so when you have something like what's going on in the paintball community now, where there's just so much hate, it is creating a lot of divide between people, and people are egging other people that they have to respond, and, tying it back to like the families. I'll never forget it. I think it was at World Cup, maybe last year, or maybe it was Tampa this year. Like Ryan Greenspan had his whole entire family was at the event with him, his wife, I think his mom, or maybe it was Camille's mom. Sloan was there. His daughter was there. And we shared like such a beautiful experience doing like this little JT photo shoot where like Ryan's in there having the time of his life. His family's there, like able to like see some of it. Sloan's down on the ground, like, she has like a lens she's putting up to her face, and like no one ever gets to experience that. But then an hour or two later, they're in the stands, Ryan's on the field, and I just remember vividly hearing like chants of like, "You're old, you're retired." And like, I just kept thinking like, man, what is his daughter thinking right now? Like, that's got to be heartbreaking for her. And so while that's unfortunately in all sports, like I think as a community, there's ways where we can spread love and like try not to do that. And especially in a time like right now where there's just so much hatred in this sport. I think there's just an opportunity for all of us to try to do a little bit better and spread more love and have more conversations on a positive note, you know? So like, I'll challenge everybody out there. The next time you go to a field, whether it's this Sunday, it's at the next USXBL, WCCPL, NXL event, walk up to a stranger and just say hello and say, "Hey, thanks for being here." You know, just have a genuine conversation with somebody. And like, that's going to change somebody's day. And like from that, you will, whether you know it or not, like you will change somebody's life for the better. Maybe you'll save somebody's life just by acknowledging them. So yeah, we're just at such a time right now where like it could go either way. And I think if we do more things like this, like what you're doing on this podcast, opening up and being vulnerable, I think it's going to help push the sport in a positive light.
Well, thank you. And, you know, I'll final words with it, right? All I go back to is the first time I went to Outlaw, and I was like, this is not at all what I thought this was going to be. I can still smell it. And you always just smell that paintball smell, right?
We love Outlaw, but we also hate to smell it Outlaw.
We do, but no, it's just paintball, right? It's just the paint. There's just a distinct smell. I will never forget, like, it's just embedded in my brain, the smell, the day, you, and watching, I won't name anyone, but watching this individual come off and take off their mask and sit down. And I looked at that person. We made eye contact for a second. And in that moment, it was, I see your pain because I feel your pain. Mm-hmm. That's what this sport does.
Yeah.
That's what this community does. And it does it entirely different. It's built on vulnerability. It's built on love. It's built on building people up. So stop losing sight of it. Like, this is something beautiful and unique that no other sport has. So keep doing that. Keep doing that moment. Remember, we're all in pain. It's so natural. It's life. We're all in pain. Don't make it harder. Use your superpower. Make it better. Connect with the person. When they take off their mask and you see that pain, be there. Be there for that people. Don't make the pain worse. That's not what the sport is.
Yeah.
Like, from the moment I saw it and from everything I see since, that's not what it is. So I know it will turn around. It's just take a second, everyone, and just remember why you do this.
Yeah, totally.
Remember why you paintball. That was the worst plug I've ever done.
No, full circle right there. Like this whole podcast just came full circle. So great job. Yeah, thank you. I think that's a beautiful like way to end the show. And I think for everybody out, I do have to get to the last question. We'll get to that. But I think for everybody listening out there, you know, I just, while you were talking, like I pulled up my statistics here, and just on YouTube alone, not, you know, I'm not looking at Instagram, I'm at 96% male versus female.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're part of that 4%, which is inflating that a little bit. So I think a lot of males are going to see this podcast, and I think it would be a great opportunity for maybe sit down with your partner and, hey, you know, I want to share this with you. And I think if you're going to an event with your partner, watch this podcast together, because this is going to help make your experience as a couple and as a family a stronger experience. And I think, you know, it's going to help so many couples out there of what you're doing, you coming on the show and opening up. So that means a lot.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And, you know, open invitation. I know obviously like my account's private, but I'm a message away. Dan's a message away by proxy. Like that message will come to me. If you're going to an event, paintball's built on community. We are that community. I love my paintball community, my people. We're there. I have open arms. I'm there. I will be a person to help you through the awkwardness. Like, you have people. You're not alone. Just like Paintball for a Purpose last week, the community's there. Please don't be afraid to reach out for it. And totally expect, like, I have not done well with Paintball Wives in the past. I could have done a better experience. I've learned from that. Like, we should create better experiences, not day drinking. Definitely learned that mistake.
Especially in the hot sun.
Yeah, especially it's so much better things to do at paintball. But you have community. Of course it'll be awkward. Of course it'll be weird, but you're not alone. I go through that. I'm still awkward and weird at paintball events. So it's okay. Feel free to message us. It's something to connect over, not something to tear you apart.
Yeah. Beautiful. So for the last question, we've done this cool thing for now. I think this is 26 episodes that ties in every guest together, where I get to have my guest ask a question to next week's guest without knowing who it is. Just a cool way to tie everything together. And the nice thing about this is I had Tammy on last week, and obviously you two don't know each other, but it's the first female connection on the show, which is really cool.
That's so cool.
So her question for you, without knowing you were going to be on the show, and then you get to ask a question, is who was the most influential person in your life that has helped you make you who you are today?
Okay. Oh, Tammy. Oh, this is it's the vulnerability hot seat. Oh man. Say it without crying. Say it without crying. It's you.
Crying is okay on this show.
It's been you, and I don't mean that from a sappy perspective. People don't know me. They don't know what we've been through. I don't think a lot of people were survived all of life circumstances that we've been through, and everything in my life and just how crazy it's been. And the only person that's stood by that, I shared an Instagram story, I think within the past 2 days, that it was this person. Alex Frazier actually turned me on to the account, the Humans of New York. But it was they started with, I've always been too loud. I've always had too many feelings. I've always been too much. And I have always felt that to my core. Yeah. And I think you've been the first person ever to be yeah, okay, yes, but I still love you, and continue to love me throughout that. And I haven't been able to love myself because that's been my curated identity. And it's been you that's helped me break that, and for me to face it and get better with that. It's still a work in progress, but you've been the only person in my life that's done that and stood against the world when the world's been absolutely awful. And I can say with total confidence I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you.
Man,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I was trying to keep the streak going, but it's close. Thank you. That genuinely means a lot, and I'm excited to give you a hug after this is over and say thank you, literally in person, upstairs.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. I love you so much, and that means a lot. And I'm always going to be here for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Pressure is off. You get to now ask the next week's guest a question without knowing who it is. And full disclosure, Amanda doesn't know who I'm having on next week. So it's not we plan this thing.
Well, you know what the question's going to be.
Is it why do you paintball?
What's your why? Yeah.
Cool.
Why do you paintball? Finish the sentence. I paintball for. What's your why?
Yeah, I love that. Again, full circle to why you started the account and where we are.
Man.
Yeah.
You got this podcast thing down, I guess.
I know it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. It's just if you told me, a year or two ago, one, I would have a podcast, and two, you would be a guest on it, I'd be no way. That's what kind of world is that? And so it's such a cool thing for you and I. We've experienced so much together in paintball, all the highs and lows of it. And I'm sure the title of this will probably be how paintball almost destroyed our marriage and saved it. And so to be able to go on that journey together is it's really cool. And so this is out of all the cool things I've done in the sport, I think this is totally up there, having you on here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, everyone else, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Shelda Podcast. This has definitely been one of my top favorite ones, if not the favorite. And I will catch you next time. See ya.